Well, good morning, good afternoon to you. Welcome to Zyxel's Tech Talk. My name is Tri Nguyen. I am the product manager, sales manager here at Zyxel North America. Looking forward to talking and sharing with you about our GS 1915 series and just how easy and cost-effective it is to providing Nebula-based connectivity for any of your networks that require small port counts, small PoE for voice and video for access points connectivity. And again, we want to make this a kind of an interactive session. If you want to ask me any questions, feel free to use the Q&A section, and I will get to those as we go along. So just a quick introduction of who we are. If you don't know who we are today, if you just are new partners with us, we are Zyxel Networks, 30 years of networking since 1989. 100 million devices making connections, 700 employees worldwide in 150 markets with over 1 million businesses now using Zyxel solutions. We also have over 250,000 devices now on also our Nebula Cloud Platform that I'll be talking to you today. We are serving you through our sales channel and sales reps who participate and facilitate all of the needs that you may have with distribution, any questions, bringing on tech support or sales engineers for pre and post sales connections. So David, Andy, and Jacob handle those regions there. If you want to screenshot that or just check it out later to see maybe where you fall into place, but they should already be reaching out to you if you are a partner today. But we have dedicated resources for you. And Zyxel Networks has been trusted by millions in solutions around the world. Some of the brands that we have associated with or with have been deployed alongside with our solutions. You can see there at the bottom, we are an award-winning platform brand, as internationally award-winning throughout the world. Different awards there because we take pride in what we do. We make the product, we engineer the firmware, the software, and the hardware as well to design the best solutions that we can. We also partner with some of the leading partners worldwide that provide different types of solutions, whether it be security, cloud access, tools to do Wi-Fi, security platforms like WebRoots, McAfee, Bitdefender, putting in using their expertise and putting that in our products to facilitate the networks that are there. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can make that a little bit better here. Maybe it's glitching the sound. All right. Hopefully that will get a little bit better there. Let me know if that improves or not, and I'll see what else I can try to do here. Give me a second. Okay, let's see if that can do it. Robotic like Bluetooth. I'm on a wired connection, so hopefully it's just maybe my PC, something's going on. But hopefully this is better now. Can you hear me better now? No improvement yet. Let me see. Sorry about that. When I initially all right, how about no, hold on, I turn that down a little bit. Still digitized, maybe. Okay, I wonder what is going on then. It's just muffled. Let me see if my voice, oh, okay, hold on a sec. No, it seems like it should be. Let me change my mic. Let me see if I can hear myself here. One second. Testing, check. Is my router firmware up to date? Has some cracks every now and then. It's like a connection quality. I'm going through a wired connection too, but I don't know. I'm working from home, but you never know. Spectrum has had some issues before. Let me do a quick, from local, it seems like it's okay. for me when I listen to it just out of the box. My ping time seems to be okay, but distant. I'm wondering if, yeah, the other one was clear from distant, but I had changed it to another kind of another connection. Definitely very crackly with echoes. Okay, hold on. Let me see what I can do. Something wrong with my audio box. Let me do a quick reset of my audio box real quick, and then I'll change it back. Otherwise, I'll go to, I don't have another output mic. I don't want to go to my that mic yet. I don't want to go to my video camera mic because that's really, really bad. So give me just a second. All right, let's see. How do I sound currently now? I could leave and rejoin, but I want to check this out first. Still bad? Okay, so let me try. No, I'm actually using a full-on a mic. So this is my typical streaming mic. I usually don't have any problems. So I wonder if, let's see, if I leave though, I need to. Oh, hold on. Maybe that's why. No, I don't have. Let me disconnect Facebook Live, but I have an analog mic issue. Yeah, it's kind of strange because usually I don't have a problem with the mic on this side, and I sound fine coming through my mixer. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can go to a different mic for now, and we can deal with that. I sound better than before. Well, I guess, am I still popping and echoing, I guess? And crack like an analog issue. It's almost like something, but the weird thing is that I'm not hearing that popping within my mixer. Okay, let me try to change the output to a different mic real quick. Sorry about that. We'll get to it. Let's go with my webcam and see if that can work or not. Check. Or now I should sound distant, but am I cracking though? We've all been there. And my speed seems to be okay, that it does sound like it's still cracking. So it seems like there's some connectivity problem between me and the cloud, because me locally seems to be okay. It's always I don't want to have to reboot everything because then we're going to be stuck with. Let me exit this. Check, check. Check, check, 1, 2. Much better. Much less cracking. All right, we'll go with that. We'll go with that video. You don't need to see me anyways. Not very much, but improved. All right, we'll go with that. Well, thank you for your patience. We've all been there, but the mystery is at least I have some feedback. Feedback from you to provide me with some information on where we're at. All right, here we go. Well, back to the whole thing. Comprehensive portfolio. We're here to deliver an end-to-end network solution. All the products that you see there, security appliances, wireless solutions, connectivity, switching, gateway access solutions, routers, network management, all those together. Anything that's connected to a network is something we provide for you today. So the 1915 series switch is what we're presenting today, and it's a simple way to get to the cloud. We're able to provide you affordable solutions with the switch network that can be both managed in the cloud or in a standalone kind of solution. You can manage it all together, unified in that cloud solution, or you can use it in the local GUI access and provide you kind of the full feature set there to configure. We'll talk about how this product is kind of the choice for prosumers that you might be deploying for a unified home network that might need some switching, some PoE, maybe adding some access points in there, or maybe connecting IoT devices in the home, or for small businesses that are looking, a simple way to deploy. They don't need anything complex. They need ports and some PoE, but also to give you visibility within the cloud and also to manage it as well and provide you, a great performance and provide you a solution that is always available and made in a way that is that we can stand behind with our lifetime warranties. You can use it for chain stores or retail stores, again, just for simple management, simple networks. It would give you the flexibility to be able to have that visibility and also deploy them in the cloud solution, and talk about why the advantage of using Nebula Cloud for these kinds of deployments. Now, if you're just looking for products that are, you just deploy for like one person, it may not be, a great choice per se. But the main advantage of the 1950s is that, or 1915s, is that it gives you that Nebula access and be able to provision them in the Nebula Cloud. So because it supports Nebula, it gives you that network cloud experience for that wired connection there. You can use it to deploy an auto provision just by scanning the QR code on the device and be able to use it within the Nebula platform. So you can pre-configure them before you even unbox it. It has a cloud LED on the device to show you, if you're there in person, to see whether or not it's been successful at making connections to the cloud. It can provide you PoE, 802.3AT, PoE plus power, so the 30-watt power budget. On the small port count, it's the 8-port with 60 watts total power budget. So good for maybe a couple access points or, several voice over IP solutions. And then a 24-port version that we're having that's coming out, 24 EP. The EP just stands for kind of like economical power. The wattage is usually about half of what you'll find in our higher end GS 1920 series. So 130 watts in the 24-port package there. And it's a kind of like a half power. So half of the ports there are PoE enabled. It's a compact design, so much smaller than some of the devices that are out there in the market today. But also our focus is on the quietness of it as well. Just a low noise production of the device when you're using it. So really to deploy into the homes or into spaces that may be sensitive to sound or noise, then it won't contribute to that. But it supports that Nebula platform. It's a very affordable cloud-based switch series. So if you look at some of the pricing, so if you need to go check out with our distribution side for the quotes, then you can see, it's very cost effective because it is lower budget. So it's not for, your major applications, but again, it's a, flexible, a step up from our 1900 series, which has web management, but no cloud access. So it's that step up. It's that in between no cloud management and our 1920 series. So these are the port counts that are available. As you can see there, we have an 8-port version that's with and without PoE, and then a 24-port version with and without PoE support. So again, flexible in what you might be using it for those simple deployments. And, again, like I mentioned earlier, being able to deploy, some of the smaller access points, the cost-effective access points, or even hooking up to IP cameras, or even to our new outdoor access points, or NWA 55AXE there, to make connectivity to an outdoor, maybe point to point, or bringing that connectivity into the house and providing PoE power to that access point, or maybe even just to power up or make connectivities to a POS machine that's in there, and be able to have access to some of the kind of key applications or use cases to be able to reboot or schedule reboot the IP cameras or the access points, just to refresh them, or to do troubleshooting without having to send somebody out on site. We pride ourselves in how we design our products as well. So with these switches, we've adopted 0 ECAPs on the main board. So it's all solid state capacitors. We have a solid system board and consolidated there. So just getting the quality of the product and the longevity of it is much higher than what you would typically see in this kind of class of product. So we don't use any cheap, low quality thermal solutions either. Again, just focused on making sure the device survives, and again, allowing for us to offer you lifetime warranty on these kinds of products. So some of the application scenarios is pretty obvious for you doing it already, small businesses, chain stores, shops, cafes, even in the home. So it's those kinds of smaller applications where you just need some sort of switch to power some, lower end AP, doesn't need to be super powered there. And then a security appliance, whether it be a USG20, just as a basic firewall with some content filtering, or you can still provide full UTM kind of based security there. And it all, again, manageable in that Nebula Cloud Platform, and be able to manage and get visibility across all those networks. So whether you have a single chain store, or maybe a customer that has 50 chain stores, you can standardize on the BOM of that deployment if all those stores are very similar in regard, and you're able to send packages and kits to those installations for the stores. Then it makes it a lot easier for you to deploy in mass. So that's really where the advantages are in terms of being able to use the cloud to provision these products, and it makes it a lot easier for you to pre-configure them and come up with the template for your customers that best suits them, so that you can then cookie cutter them across the board. Now that cookie cutter kind of capability, though, is part of our Pro series of our Nebula platform, but we do offer these as a free cloud offering as well. So there's a free cloud that gives you some of the major features there that we have. But comparing the 1915s, typically we would compare it to like a Ubiquiti, non-PoE switch here with the 8-port and the Netgear version there. So it's going to be similar or better price point than these models here. But we do, again, provide you with that cloud and standalone mode, which is a big differentiator, and supports for, jumbo frame, large Mac cable, and also still Wizard and connectivity, tools and installation tools for that. And the other version, the PoE one, comes with the 60-watt power. So if you're already using like a Ubiquiti or Ubiquiti Lite PoE, then those already have a similar power budget, if not just a little bit more. But one thing we do with our models, the 1915 does support what we call consumption mode. So it will detect how much PoE budget is actually being used, and then taking that and putting it against the budget. So if you have a device that is AT compliant there with 30 watts, you don't need to budget out 30 watts. It will just budget out, let's say, 7 watts for a VoIP phone, maybe 15 watts for the access point that you might be using. So you can power up more devices with these PoE switches. And we think the performance on it is going to be great for these kinds of applications. And then on the 24-port version here, we also compete then against the Ubiquiti 24-port. in that price point range. Again, standalone, both, that's the main differentiator, being able to use both cloud and standalone mode in that, and be able to have that offering across the board. And then the PoE model version, also higher power than the competitor models that are there, the Ubiquiti and the Netgear version there. So overall, more power, more smart power, and also being able to use it in both a cloud and standalone mode. So the main differentiators within our own product positioning, as you can see here, are 1900s series. A lot of customers will use that just for basic connectivity, basic PoE, basic configuration, but it's only in standalone mode. Now in the 1915 series now puts them into a hybrid mode, being able to offer you cloud and standalone, depending on your application. So it really just, depends on what you're using it for. And then if you need to get more complex, maybe applications or higher PoE budgets, then you move up to the 1920 series, as you see over here. So all of that, if you're needing to do like DHCP snooping, ARP inspection, math authentication, 8021X authentications or access control lists, etc., doing more complex applications, then you do the 1920s. So again, we're talking about simplicity and just flexibility of the basic kind of installations there for those small kind of applications. So it's a good option for you to have to choose from. And with Nebula, this is where the power of any device comes into play, is being able to make connectivity easily, effortlessly, and be able to scale it as small or as big as you need. And you're able to protect and manage all of that, all of the wireless, all of the switching networks, and the security, all within a single platform. And you can configure those devices without even unboxing it, like I mentioned, just by scanning those QR codes, or even getting the MAC address serial number information from distribution, however it may be, so that you can load it within your system and be able to configure them so that when the devices themselves get installed, they call home back to the Nebula platform and grab its configuration, grab its updated firmware, and then be ready to go. So your deployment becomes very easy, especially when you're talking about multiple sites. If you're deploying 5, 10, hundreds of sites, or hundreds of access points or switches, at a time, you can do it very easily and very quickly. There's no additional hardware or software. So comparison to something like a Ubiquiti or et cetera, you don't have to install something separate within the location. You don't need a cloud key. You don't need additional servers. You don't need any kind of wireless controllers, et cetera. It's all managed within this one Nebula Cloud Platform. So it's all there, so you can configure, you can monitor it anywhere you have a browser. So anything that can bring up a web interface can showcase and configure all of the things, all the devices that you have in the Nebula platform, again, without having to install any additional hardware or software. And you're able to get those networks up in minutes, because once the device calls home, they just, the time it takes for it to download its configuration, download its firmware, and reboot is the time that it takes for it to go live. So once you've already pre-configured it within the network, within the cloud platform, then they're ready to go. They're just waiting for those devices to call home and say, "Here I am," and provide them, and push all those configurations to them. So you can deploy. The scale is, just to do one device. If you're just doing a single configuration, you're not getting the cost savings in terms of time. But when you're talking about managing multiple customers that may have multiple sites, this becomes a very effective way of configuring your solutions. And you have access anytime, anywhere. Again, you have a browser, so you can remotely have access. You can give access to your customers who you may have access to view maybe the settings, the widgets, or the dashboard display of how many people are currently on, what are their Wi-Fi signal strengths, so what websites they're going to, what security blocking that they're experiencing, and then be able to use it to troubleshoot. So anywhere you have access to the internet, you can configure, monitor, and find and troubleshoot issues without having to go there on site or have to build a VPN tunnel or some sort of backdoor to give you access. It's all the information that you possibly would need is in that cloud platform itself, giving you that visibility that you typically don't have. And many of us, I think, is it's very difficult or costly to go and get a solution to try to do your own monitoring. Things like solar winds, you have to configure or pay licensing on, and just to get some level of network clarity. But with the Nebula Cloud Platform, it gives you full network clarity and managing all those different locations. You can look at information logs for the last 12 months if you're on our pro package, and you're able to add additional devices, and you can scale it as you need without having to pay large licenses up front, when you're not necessarily like expanded to that size yet. So we can scale it so it helps to reduce your IT costs there, and also managing of servers or managing your own servers or hosting those or co-locating that. Again, it's all integrated within these devices so that you can immediately get benefit within the cloud. We've also made guest network access easy as well. So captive portals built into our Nebula platform, user device management, auto guest protection with guest isolation within the Wi-Fi, and integrating it with the switch network as well to help things stay separate. So if you're doing VLANs, if you're doing prioritization of the different VLANs, you can manage that within the cloud and be able to give guest network access, to those businesses. So if we're talking about cafes or little coffee shops, etc., that are using the 1915, you can then implement a private network and a guest network access. The product availability is with the 1915-8 and 8 APs. Those are actually fairly available at the moment. The 24 port is coming out in July, and it will probably ship in probably August, September timeframe when they become available. So we'll have those units for the 24 port. But I believe the 8 port and the 8 HP or 8 EP are available today in some quantities here. If not, they will be very shortly. I'll have to look up exactly when they come or land, or if they're already here. I think we've already been starting to sell some of those as well. So if you need some units to demo, then we can definitely do that. Does it show bandwidth usage per device? So you can track down the user that hogging the bandwidth. Yes, David, that's exactly what it will do as well. It gives you that visibility so you can see and click through, and you can see the top bandwidth consumers and which devices are consuming that. So you can then drill in. You can then see maybe what kind of applications that is using that bandwidth if you have those features enabled within the firewall. But it will give you that at least an idea of how much bandwidth is being used, even if you use our wireless or our switch network. The switch network is a little harder if you have kind of a mixed network. If people are going through access points, you may not be able to see easily unless it's you drill into the device or the unit itself. You'll see those MAC addresses and IP addresses that are using that bandwidth. And you're able to manage and efficiently update these as well. So again, if you only had one site and you're just managing it for yourself, this doesn't necessarily give that much benefit to that, because if you need to upgrade firmware, fine, you go in, you upgrade your firmware, you make some configuration changes to that device, right? But you as MSPs and installers, you may be managing hundreds of customers that have hundreds of sites. And so when you multiply that across the board, being able to make a configuration change in an organization, let's say you had to update a DNS server or some information like that across multiple sites of this customer, you can do that quite easily. And then also firmware updating, you can schedule those firmware updates to be made as well. So we're only updating maybe batches at a time of devices, or you can do the whole thing at a certain time overnight, on a Sunday or whatever it may be. You can schedule for those things to happen that way. So it gives you that flexibility without having to log into each device or having to build a backdoor to every device or network that you are managing. So it gives you that kind of also another safe way to manage these, again, without having to open up ports and things like that for you. It has built-in user management, so you can use the cloud authenticator. You can manage the different users across the platform. So if you have a user for an organization, you can have them be able to use that authentication profile to log into maybe multiple sites. So if you have maybe a employee that goes to multiple locations for your customer and you want to do two-factor authentication or even WPA, user access authentication, and 2-1X authentication on the Wi-Fi side, you can manage that again without having to build your own Radius server or go install that and make sure it's cloud capable and implement the the devices to authenticate against. It's all built within this cloud Nebula platform. So it's easy, one place for you to manage all those customers and all those users as they need to go through maybe the different connections. So VPN for Wi-Fi, again, two-factor authentication is a big deal today to make sure that those connectivities are secure. And then with, of course, remote access, remote work from home, from people who are traveling, being able to manage VPN connectivity, so both L2TP or IPsec. VPNs can be managed within the site, or even to make site-to-site, connectivity from office to office. You're able to build that within the Nebula Cloud Platform very simply with just a few clicks there. So you kind of skip all those advanced, maybe complex VPN configurations that you might have to run into. Be able to do that both on a device and also now we've implemented it with our IPsec VPN client as well. So you can automatically get the correct configurations to connect to a specific office, via the web interface configuration. So you can do that within the new IPsec VPN client. On top of that, I don't think I talked about, but we also have connectivity with our Wi-Fi through our secure Wi-Fi connection, where you can drop in an access point to a maybe to a home or remote office, and that access point can build a secure tunnel automatically through the existing network there back to the home office and provide you a connectivity there that's like a layer 2 connection. So you have access as if you were sitting in the office. So that's really a great way for you to add, again, value to the network just by using the Zyxel Nebula. So the dashboard and the cloud service is an award-winning cloud platform. You can centralize all of that. You can customize the widget display within the organizations, within the sites. So again, you can put the information that you find most relevant to you into this display, or maybe to your customer, so that your customer has maybe views again of how much bandwidth people are using, as you can see here, like, or what applications are using the most bandwidth, or what websites are people are most going to. That kind of information can be provided for like a 24-hour period or a longer period of time if you're opening up the reports. But typically, people just want to see a snapshot of what's going on in the network for that month, or for that week, or for that day. So that's what we provide there within this dashboard. And then we have a mobile app as well that integrates with the solution and gives you things like network status, remote control of certain devices, being able to reboot APs or cameras by accessing the switches, and be able to power cycle the ports on the PoE. So that, again, it gives you a great troubleshooting opportunity there. Most of the time, especially with IP cameras, the number one thing is that, there's it's not appearing and something's wrong. It's just not showing up in the display. You're easily able to log into the switch and power cycle that PoE port and see if it comes back online before you even have to, roll a truck. And most of the time, that will fix kind of the issue there already. So being also able to reboot access points, again, just maybe for the same reason, to without having to send somebody physically there first to do that kind of troubleshooting, that at least can solve or maybe give you an idea of what potentially could be wrong. And also you can block clients that might have unusual traffic. So like David was asking there, just the bandwidth usage. Maybe it's a device that you don't recognize, and it seems to be downloading or doing some sort of torrent that's just eating up all of the bandwidth that's available there at the site. You can actually block those clients as well from getting access, at least temporarily. So then you can take and mitigate that and then take action later on. So again, it gives you all that information at the power of your fingertips, anywhere you have access. And of course, there's notifications as well. So you can set up notifications in case something goes down, a site goes down, a WAN interface goes down. that can also ping that mobile app as well. And Nebula now supports over 80 devices. And so you can check that out at zyxel.com/Nebula and kind of see what we have there supporting Nebula platform, including the 1915 switch. So that's added to that product line. Now, to understand Nebula, there's kind of two things. NebulaFLEX is what we call most of our products. That means that it can work in standalone mode or in a cloud mode. And typically you can use the free licenses there for those kinds of products, or you can upgrade to the Pro license. The Pro gives you full feature set. It gives you 365 days of logs, advanced monitoring, a lot of the higher end technology features within your Wi-Fi, like smart antenna, Wi-Fi health, IGMP, if you're doing that within the switches. So a lot of those features are in that Pro, but we do offer a free cloud. So the free cloud is to compete against, your cloud key type products, where they're just offering you some sort of cloud management. So that base pack, we break out the services for Nebula in several layers here. The base pack is your free pack. So any products, whether they started out as Pro, if the licenses expire or anything like that, it will go back to base pack until you pay for the licensing for it to get back to the Pro pack. So at any point in time, you can always get that. One differentiator is that we don't brick your product. If you were at Pro and you didn't pay for or you didn't renew, we don't brick your device. We just put you into the base pack, so you still have all of the central management. You still have the visibility. Your logs goes down to 7 days worth of logs instead of a year until you pay and renew. Then it puts you back into the years of data. So you don't lose the data at all, but you only get visibility of the last 7 days. The Plus pack is kind of an in-betweener. If you're thinking about just a little bit cost effective, you don't need the full. It's like a 30-day log instead. Then this is kind of an in-between cost effective. But if you're an MSP, most of all my MSP partners, they go straight to the Pro pack because it gives you the full availability of all the features. And from a cost perspective, it's about street price. What your customers would pay is $2.50 approximately per month per device. So if you've rolled that into your monthly MSP option there, then it's really a kind of a low cost option. For what you get for the full management and all the full availability of reporting and all that information available in that Pro pack. Now, MSP pack is something that we launched for MSPs. It's a kind of for your master login. So if you have an account that manages like all your customers from that top level view, you want to get the MSP pack, and it allows for you to do kind of cross organizational management. So if you have admins you want to add that manages across the board, you don't have to add each admin to each organization that you're managing like you do today. You can add them to an admin group, and the admin group allows for you to then put that group into whatever customers that you're managing. Then in case that employee leaves, then you can remove that employee account from the management level from that admin group and be able to it would affect across the board without having to use. Ty says he uses the MSP pack on the daily and can't speak highly enough about his feature set. Thank you, Ty, for that. So we have one of your peers there is definitely on board with that MSP pack. And I think it costs street price is about $500 a year, but that pays for just that management flexibility. But if you're not managing, I would say if you have less than 50 customers, maybe 20 to 50 customers, then you're kind of on that border whether or not to get MSP's pack, or but if you're looking at possibly managing more than 20 or more than 50 customers, then definitely MSP pack is a way to go to give you that kind of feature set. You can still do a lot of other things. Again, like I said, you can still manage them, the admins individually within each organization, but it just becomes tedious as you have to add or remove people if they come and go. So it just makes a lot of those a lot easier to manage the organizations. On the wired side, all of the switches, we want to make sure that the switching is appropriate for what you're using it for. So just kind of a side information here for, on top of that 1915 series. If you're using things for VLAN, just know that you have to have, the appropriate switch to make sure that voice VLANs are segregated, they're prioritized, being able to detect and recover connected PoE devices. If you're doing different types of IoT or even maybe panels, access to make sure you have the right PoE power. A lot of customers, unfortunately, just go, well, this is a cost-effective switch, and it has enough power, but I'm just going to use it, and then realize that they actually need something a little bit higher end because of the application they're using it for. So just make sure you go through the process, just not on, basically just not on price as your indicator, but to use and to talk to us to understand, what kind of solutions you're trying to deploy. So if you're doing like IPTV, you're doing maybe Wi-Fi 6 access points that might need higher power PoE, then that all has to come into play. Otherwise, you're gonna run into issues, and you're not gonna have the switch that is appropriate. And the switch really is, I think, is an important piece because it is the power and is a lot of times kind of the security between the different networks that you may have deployed because of wireless and because of voice over IP. All of those networks need to be segregated, including now, lighting and access control panels, things that you might not typically think of that shouldn't be on the same network, but you can physically connect them on the network, but virtually through VLANs, be able to segregate them throughout the network and making sure that that's all keepable and supported. And then being able to make sure that security-wise, all of that is, kind of nailed down there, and be able to provide that network resiliency, cloud backup of the switch configurations. So you can set that within the Nebula Cloud to get even daily or maybe weekly configuration backups within the cloud so that you can restore that if necessary. Though it's not quite necessary, because if you've already had a configuration within your Nebula Cloud platform, then whether you switch out another switch or you added another switch to that network, it will take that configuration as you've deemed. So backup is just, a good thing to have anyways, in case you want to do more of a standalone, fix. If you need to go out there for some reason, you can restore that. But security on the port side is very important. So if your switch needs, or your application, if the switch security is important, things like loop guard, DHCP guard, if you have some open ports that people might be plugging in routers or their own access points to that could be potential security issues. So you want to make sure that if that's something of concern within your deployment, then you may have to go to a slightly higher, grade switch like a 1920 that provides you those kinds of feature sets. But otherwise, if you're just looking, hey, I need some basic VLAN, basic EOS, then the 1915 series will be more than enough for that kind of application. But we want to make sure that these switches can be deployed easily. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. With the cloud configuration, being able to clone switches in these applications, you'll see the benefit, even if you have customers that are similar type. We have a lot of applications that are very similar, even though they may be for different customers. Let's say a doctor's office or a dental office, they'll probably have a gateway, a switch, and an access point, and that covers that, that little office space there, or even maybe a veterinarian office. So you'll have that as your basis of that type of deployment, and be able to clone them and move them when you have a actual customer who buys, and basically clone that configuration or that BOM setup to a new organization or a new customer, and be able to just scan in those devices and then put them in the cloud and get those configurations as you need to. So it makes it quite easy for you to deploy, and gives you access to even reach out to places beyond maybe your install base. In your physical driving location, you can now have the opportunity to send install kits. Maybe you're doing a nationwide customer that has chains around the country. You can literally send, install packages where whoever is on the remote side, all they need to know how to do is plug in the internet connection into the WAN interface on the firewall, the port 1 on the firewall to the switch, port 1, and then maybe port or the uplink port, and then the PoE port plugs into the access point. And then once all those are powered on, turned on, PoE is injected into the AP, it all dials home, calls home, and gets its configuration as needed. So again, just the power of being able to auto provision and synchronize that as well. So you can synchronize configurations. You can, again, do configuration changes for mass within a customer, deploy and manage all of that. So that's what, again, the series here. And like I mentioned, 1915 series is on that low end with the Nebula Cloud. And if you need something a bit beefier that has higher PoE options and still be able to manage standalone or in the cloud, it's your GS 1920 series. And then some applications, you may look at some 10 gig uplinks, or maybe this is kind of your 10 gig, you have some servers, or maybe you're using fiber to interconnect switches within a particular location. So this is, something you may consider for like a hotel or a larger office where you have switches not just in a single rack, but maybe dispersed or distributed within the building, and you're connecting it with 10 gig fiber. So again, depends on your application, what you're using it for. We have switches in product that will fulfill all of that. And then if you're looking for multi-gig, we actually have a new model. That's available. It has a 12-port fiber. So these are all 10 gig capable fiber connections on a kind of a small form factor 12-port. Okay, so that could be a concentrator type device, or we also have then multi-gig XS 1930s. So you can have 8-port with 10 gig or multi-gig copper, or combinations of that, or with PoE. So you can see in the bottom here, this port count has 8 ports of PoE, up to 375 watts of power. So you can imagine 375 watts on 8 ports. So it's as big as our 24 and 48 port power budget, but made for this. And this is what you would use to power up Wi-Fi 6 AX applications. So some of our highest end models or flagship APs will use 5 gig as a uplink port and need the 60 watt power to support its full potential, because it does consume about 32, 33 watts. So that's going to be, what you would use there. David asks, how soon do you anticipate that 10 gig will become the de facto standard like 1 gig today? I would say Wi-Fi 7 pushes that, because today the applications are still, I would say, kind of limited or bottlenecked by the WAN interface. Most of the solutions today are in the cloud. So all the applications that you're doing, it's all moving into the cloud, but your Wi-Fi or your WAN speeds at a hotel, at an office, is kind of hitting that gigabit point. So most places, you can find hundreds of megabits, but I think until the normal internet connectivity becomes like a 10 gig connectivity, people don't necessarily need 10 gig within the application itself, unless they have something locally that might be using the 10 gig. So maybe I know that our 10 gig switches, a lot of them are being used within our video, or even in hospitals that are delivering high amounts of data between servers within the local network. So a lot of those networks, you can have the 10 gig, but a lot of the applications there, most people even in the office are just using, they may have a 10 gig network with multi-gig Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi 6, but the bandwidth that they're just using it to surf the web. So a lot of the customers, unless they have a gigabit or a 10 gig uplink to the internet, they're not going to take advantage of it. Now, Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 6, the benefits of those is that the quality of the solution, of the connectivity for Wi-Fi, is improved using those technologies. So even though the bandwidth is capable of doing multi-gig throughput on the device clients at multiple devices at the same time, it's not taking advantage of the WAN interface. So the WAN is being the bottleneck of that. So I think until you see Some of our customers are using some of our multi-gig switches to provide multi-gig connectivity to an office or to the home. So until you see that become more widely available, then I would say people wouldn't necessarily use 10 gig or multi-gig to try to get to the internet that way. Ty says it's been there de facto. It just works. Yeah, I mean the back end is like, having the multi-gig there, it's always an advantage. You're always going to have within the interface very fast connectivity, at least until it gets to the WAN, then it's still subject to that. So it just depends on what you're trying to deploy and cost, because these will cost more than your gigabit switches. So that's always the balance of when do you move to the newer technology to either to future-proof the product or the solution, or you keep it at what is most cost-effective for what they're really going to use it for. Because if that location is like, we will never have anything bigger than a gigabit pipe to this office, then multi-gig will only benefit in that local network. If you have local backup or local voice or video applications that are going to utilize that, or if you have a large scale network where maybe the 10 gig becomes the ring between switches so that there's no bottleneck between devices, then that's an application, right, to use that. But most people on those kinds of networks, like at a hotel that might use a 10 gig backbone, they're just using it for internet connectivity or Netflix streaming or something like that. So these products, like the 1915s and our access points, are great for connecting businesses on a small scale. You might have just 5, 10, 20 users in the office or devices in the office. So small scale office, but then it could be scaled up to a larger one if you need to have a higher end access point, or maybe have need for larger security applications with UTM, then you can use a bigger firewall. So again, it's really mix and match. With the NebulaFLEX and Flex Pro products, you can use one or all of them. So it just depends on how you want to use it, what you want to manage, and the visibility you want to have within the network. And then you can also scale it into even a larger office, again, using some of our higher end technology with Wi-Fi 6, because you have lots of devices or a lot of interference potential. Maybe it's a hotel, then you may upgrade to these higher end. But again, make sure that your switch network is appropriate to the access points, what you're deploying, what you're using it for today. And if you are not yet a partner with us, I would definitely encourage you to join our partner program. It's free to join. There's bronze, silver, and gold. You start in the silver tier, and based on your sales on a 6-month period, it dictates where you are. So if you can get 12K in a 6-month, that's 2K a month in Zyxel sales, then you would move to a gold partner tier that gives you full discounts through distribution. We work through DNH, Ingram Cynics, or TD Cynics, Wave, Target, and Pace International to provide you with products and solutions. And again, if you're having problems, finding product, which we all are, definitely reach out to your sales reps, get your orders in so you can get in line for the allocations as they come through, because we constantly, every several weeks we get some units that come in. So we're slowly eating away at the, backlog, but it's an industry-wide issue at the moment. And thank you for your patience and all of that. If you want to connect with myself or with Zyxel here on LinkedIn, Zyxel US channel, or on YouTube at Zyxel America channel, or you can look for me on LinkedIn as well. It's just I think you just look to try at Zyxel and you'll find my name and you'll find my picture, and you should be able to join. I'd love to connect with you in that way if you find me. And that is all I have. Even with some technical difficulties, we were able to finish within the hour. So I appreciate the time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. You can use the Q&A section or the chat box. Or if you think of something later on and you want to email me, my email is try@zyxel.com, tri@zyxel.com. So if there are no questions, just thank you again for your time and your patience in the beginning there. Hopefully you can get whatever it is worked out so it doesn't happen again. But it's hard to tell when I'm on this side and everything on my side seems okay, but thank you for your response and help with that. So until then, if there's no other questions, thank you very much again for your time. Have a good rest of your afternoon, rest of your evening, and the rest of your days here. Then thank you very much for joining us. I don't know if my sound is working better now, or maybe it got worse when I turned on the video, but maybe that's what it is. Calls just show your data connections to be in India. But otherwise, thank you very much. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day.